New this morning, President Trump just said the United States needs Greenland and that anything less than total control is unacceptable. The question is, what is he willing to do about it? Given that the Prime Minister of Greenland says he does not want to be part of the United States, the people of Greenland do not want to be part of the United States, according to opinion polls. So the president just wrote that Greenland is, quote, vital for the golden dome that we are building, and that NATO would be far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. And then he said that anything less than that is unacceptable.
Trump is absolutely losing his mind right now because congressional pressure just escalated to a point he never expected. Democratic lawmakers aren't just criticizing Venezuela operation anymore. They're explicitly calling for his removal from office, using words like impeachment and 25th Amendment, making constitutional arguments that Trump violated fundamental limits on presidential power. And Trump is panicking, refusing to back down, doubling down on illegal claims, acting more defiant and erratic by the day, because he knows these demands are serious, knows that if political winds shift, if more Republicans break, if 2026 midterms flip House control, these removal calls could translate into actual proceedings that end his presidency, and he's terrified of that possibility even while pretending he's not. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Patrick Smith's show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what's actually happening, because this is most serious constitutional confrontation of Trump's second term. Venezuela operation that captured Maduro and launched military strikes happened without congressional authorization, without consultation. Top Democrats saying they were completely blindsided. House Foreign Affairs Ranking Member Greg Meeks said he had absolutely no briefing, no heads up, learned everything from media. That's not normal friction between branches. That's executive taking major military action while keeping Congress entirely in dark. Share this video with everyone you know, because constitutional argument against Trump is straightforward and devastating. Power to declare war belongs to Congress. Founders specifically assigned this authority to legislative branch because they didn't want single executive making unilateral decisions about military conflict. When Trump ordered strikes on Venezuela, claimed authority to govern another country, committed American military power without any congressional involvement, he did exactly what Constitution was designed to prevent. Representative Delia Ramirez stated flatly, Trump must be impeached. Not should be considered for impeachment, must be impeached. Representative Dan Goldman said Venezuela action is breach of United States Constitution and grounds for impeachment. These aren't vague concerns about policy direction. These are explicit calls for removal based on constitutional violations. Language of impeachment being used by sitting members of Congress describing current presidential conduct. Think about what that means. Representative Jared Huffman went even further, called Trump's Venezuela strategy truly insane, said we are in 25th Amendment territory. That's extraordinary statement. 25th Amendment provides mechanism to remove president deemed unable to discharge duties of office. Huffman's invocation suggests some lawmakers view Trump's conduct as so reckless, it raises questions about judgment and fitness, not just policy disagreement. Make sure you're subscribed to Patrick Smith's show, because there's bipartisan action backing up these concerns. Senate advanced war powers resolution to bar Trump from further military action in Venezuela without congressional approval. Vote was 52-47. 5 Republican senators joined all Democrats. That's rare. Members of president's own party don't usually vote to constrain his military authority. Republican defections show at least some GOP senators concluded Trump's unilateral action went too far. Senator Schumer framed legal issues directly, said Trump's raid is violation of law because he bombed civilian as well as military places in Venezuela without Congress's authorization. Representative Ilhan Omar called attack blatantly illegal and unconstitutional, demanded war powers vote before Trump's regime change efforts cause further chaos and harm. Consistency of constitutional framing across multiple Democratic members shows coordinated messaging around legal problems with Trump's conduct. And Trump's response has been pure defiance. He's bragged that U.S. is now in charge of Venezuela and its oil, dismissed Democratic criticism by saying they're just mad they failed for years, where he succeeded in one night. Show no indication of backing down, seeking congressional authorization retroactively, or acknowledging any limits on his authority to act unilaterally. That defiance is making situation worse, not better. Share this with everyone because Trump also acknowledged impeachment threat directly. On January 6th, told supporters he could be impeached again if Republicans lose Congress in 2026 midterms. That's admission. He's acknowledging Democrats have grounds to proceed if they gain power, not arguing charges are baseless, not saying he's innocent, just saying Republican control currently protects him. That's Trump admitting he's vulnerable and relying on partisan loyalty for survival. His combination of expansive claims about American control of another country and dismissiveness toward constitutional objections has intensified conflict rather than calming it. He's acting like he has unlimited authority, like Congress doesn't matter, like constitutional constraints don't apply to him. And that's exactly attitude that's driving removal demands. Now let me break down each removal mechanism lawmakers are discussing, because understanding what each requires shows gap between rhetoric and reality, shows why removal talk is serious even though actual removal faces massive political barriers under current circumstances. First is impeachment. Representatives Ramirez, Goldman, and others have specifically called for Trump to be impeached over Venezuela. Their argument is constitutional. He bypassed Congress on war powers, violated constitutional framework for military action, should be held accountable through remedy founders provided for presidential misconduct. Constitutional basis for impeachment over Venezuela is actually stronger than some previous impeachment arguments. Constitution explicitly gives Congress power to declare war. This assignment was deliberate. Founders debated it extensively and concluded decisions about military conflict should involve legislative branch. When Trump ordered major military action against Venezuela without any congressional authorization, he did something Constitution was designed to prevent. Think about what that means. And House already has impeachment resolution ready to use. H.R. 353, introduced in 2025, contains 7 articles including one specifically addressing international aggression. Venezuela fits this framework precisely. Unauthorized military action against foreign country, capture of foreign leader, claims of authority to govern another nation. Democrats wouldn't need to draft new articles to address Venezuela. Could advance existing resolution that anticipates exactly this kind of conduct. But here's problem. Impeachment requires House majority vote to advance. Republicans control House. Political math that has blocked H.R. 353 since introduction remains unchanged. Republican leadership won't schedule floor votes on impeachment. Republican committee chairs won't advance articles through committee. Democratic minority can call for impeachment but can't force consideration while they lack majority control. This is why Trump frames impeachment as contingent on 2026 elections. His statement that he could be impeached if Republicans lose Congress acknowledges that Democratic House control would mean impeachment proceedings. He's not disputing that Democrats have grounds. He's saying only Republican control prevents them from acting on those grounds. His warning to supporters treats Republican electoral success as essential for his political survival. Second removal mechanism is 25th Amendment that Huffman invoked. Amendment provides that Vice President and majority of cabinet officers can declare President unable to discharge powers and duties of office, at which point Vice President becomes acting President. If President contests this determination, Congress ultimately decides. Huffman's framing that Venezuela puts us in 25th Amendment territory suggests Trump's conduct is so reckless it raises fitness questions. Argument would be that decisions to launch unauthorized military action, claim authority to govern foreign countries, act without regard for constitutional constraints, demonstrate inability to exercise presidential judgment appropriately. This goes beyond disagreeing with policy to questioning whether president can make sound decisions. But 25th Amendment is essentially unusable against Trump under current circumstances. Vice President Vance is Trump ally who wouldn't initiate removal proceedings. Cabinet members are Trump appointees who wouldn't vote to remove him. Political actors who would need to trigger process are precisely people most aligned with Trump. Huffman's invocation is rhetorical, rather than practical, expressing how serious he views situation without any realistic path to using mechanism he's referencing. Share this video because third approach is war power's route that's actually producing some results. Senate vote advancing resolution to require congressional authorization for further Venezuela military action shows Congress can constrain presidential war-making authority even when removal isn't politically feasible. 5 Republican senators joined Democrats demonstrating bipartisan concern about executive overreach. But war power's approach constrains future conduct rather than punishing past conduct. Resolution says Trump needs congressional approval going forward, doesn't remove him for what he's already done. That's significant limitation for those who view Venezuela as warranting removal. If constitutional violation has already occurred, preventing future violations doesn't address accountability for past misconduct. Congressional criticism of being kept in dark adds weight to constitutional concerns. Meeks saying he had absolutely no briefing and learned everything from media describes complete bypass of congressional involvement. War Power's resolution requires presidential consultation with Congress before introducing armed forces into hostilities. If Trump didn't consult at all, if congressional leaders learned about major military action from news reports, that's specific statutory violation beyond broader constitutional concerns. Senator Schumer's argument that Trump violated law by bombing civilian as well as military places without authorization connects to international law as well as domestic constitutional requirements. Military strikes on civilian targets raise questions under laws of armed conflict. Conducting such strikes without congressional authorization compounds legal problems. Combination of domestic constitutional violations and potential international law issues makes Venezuela a legally complex situation beyond simple policy disagreement. Think about what that means. Now let me talk about Trump's panic and refusal strategy, because his response reveals he knows exactly how serious this is. He's not treating removal demands as frivolous partisan attacks. He's treating them as genuine threats that require aggressive defense and defiant posturing. His claims that U.S. is in charge of Venezuela and controls its oil assert ongoing authority that Congress hasn't authorized. That's not backing down, that's escalating, making even bolder claims about American control, acting like he governs Venezuela personally. Each statement compounds constitutional violations by asserting more unauthorized power. His dismissal of critics as just mad they failed asserts success rather than acknowledging constitutional concerns. That's deflection strategy. Instead of defending actions on legal or constitutional grounds, he's claiming results justify means. That accomplishment makes authority questions irrelevant. But Constitution doesn't work that way. Success doesn't validate unauthorized exercise of power. His refusal to seek retroactive authorization suggests he doesn't believe he needs congressional involvement even after fact. Most presidents who take emergency military action seek congressional approval afterward. Creates legal cover. Shows respect for legislative role. Trump won't do it, because doing it would be admitting he should have consulted Congress first. Would undermine his claims of unlimited executive authority. Each element of his response confirms pattern of unilateral executive action that sparked removal talk. He's not adjusting approach, not moderating claims, not showing any deference to congressional role. Doubling down on maximalist view of presidential power. And that's making Democratic demands for removal more intense, not less. His January 6th statement about impeachment if Republicans lose Congress shows he understands electoral stakes. He's telling supporters they must keep Republicans in power to protect him. That continued survival depends on maintaining partisan shield. That's different from claiming innocence. That's admitting guilt while relying on political protection. And his increasingly erratic behavior shows strain. Reports of him screaming at advisors, making impulsive decisions, lashing out at anyone questioning his judgment. That's not strength, that's panic. Someone who sees walls closing in and doesn't know how to escape except through defiance and aggression. Bottom line is this: Democratic lawmakers making explicit calls for Trump's removal over Venezuela. Representatives Ramirez and Goldman saying he must be impeached. Representative Huffman saying we're in 25th Amendment territory. Constitutional arguments are straightforward. Trump bypassed Congress on war powers. Violated constitutional framework for military action. Claimed unauthorized authority to govern foreign country. Senate passed bipartisan war powers resolution constraining future military action. 5 Republicans broke ranks. Shows concerns extend beyond Democratic opposition. Senator Schumer said Trump violated law by bombing civilians without authorization. Representative Omar called it blatantly illegal and unconstitutional. House Resolution 353 provides legislative framework with 7 articles of impeachment. Article 3 specifically addresses international aggression. Venezuela fits precisely, but resolution blocked by Republican House control. Can't advance without majority willing to act. 25th Amendment invocation by Huffman suggests some view conduct as raising fitness questions, but mechanism requires Vice President and Cabinet to initiate. Vance and appointees are Trump loyalists. Won't turn on him. Invocation is rhetorical, not practical. Trump's response has been pure defiance. Bragging U.S. controls Venezuela. Dismissing critics. Refusing to seek retroactive authorization. Claiming success justifies unauthorized action. Each response intensifying conflict rather than resolving it. He acknowledged impeachment threat on January 6th, said losing midterms means impeachment. That's admission Democrats have grounds. That only Republican control protects him. That electoral results determine whether removal mechanisms get activated. Gap between removal rhetoric and removal likelihood is political, not constitutional. Constitutional violations are clear. Mechanisms exist. Political power to use them depends on 2026 elections. Democratic House control means impeachment proceeds. Republican retention means continued protection. Trump's panic obvious in behavior, erratic decisions, defiant posturing, relying on partisan loyalty rather than legal defense, treating removal demands as political threats to defeat rather than constitutional constraints to acknowledge. His refusal to back down, ensuring conflict continues escalating. Demands for resignation meeting absolute defiance. Constitutional confrontation intensifying with no resolution in sight. This story continues. Stay tuned.